stuff.
Yeah, very true. Well, good evening and welcome to the pre-concert conversation. This is the live stream and it's hosted by the Omaha Symphony and KVNO. I'm Colleen Cook. I'm host of the Classical Commute, which is KVNO's afternoon drive show from 4 to 6 p.m. And I'm really glad to be with you this evening. This weekend, very important, Maestro Thomas Wilkins takes the stage Friday and Saturday night, March 26th and 27th. And it's going to be one of his last performances as music director of the Omaha Symphony. You won't want to miss it. And joining him is a young musician who's been described as one of the most dynamic young cellists around. It's Joshua Roman. He's been here before. He's not a stranger to Omaha. Well, tickets to Wilkins and Roman, they're on sale now. They're going quickly. You don't want to miss it. Don't wait. Go to omahasymphony.org as soon as we're done this evening and get your tickets now. But joining me tonight are Josh Roman and Maestro Thomas Wilkins, here to talk about the upcoming concert at the Holland Performing Arts Center. Good evening to both of you. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Maestro Thomas, this is not just another concert. Not that Omaha Symphony concerts are not ever special. They're always special. But there's something really special about this one. Why should people come this weekend?
Well, I think these days they're all special. And one of the reasons that they're special is because unlike a lot of places across the country, we actually have an audience in the room. That is a great treat. We have all been starving. Both those of us on stage have been chomping at the bit to be able to share music again, and those who are sitting in the audience have been chomping at the bit to hear music again. So I think the fact that we're still in the thick of all of this, and yet we get to come together around some great music and some great artists. That's what makes it really special. And one of the things that I wanted to do as my tenure came to an end in Omaha in my final season was I wanted to be surrounded with my friends as guest artists. And so I remember I texted Joshua and said, "Hey, dude, are you into this?" And he goes, "Yes." So here it is. And in a lot of those cases, that didn't happen because of the shutdown, but fortunately, we still had a chance to bring Joshua back to Omaha. So I'm really happy about that.
And you brought it back on a very special weekend because this is a big anniversary for the symphony, right?
This is indeed. This is the actual 100th anniversary weekend for the orchestra, and so that's just icing on the cake.
Oh, that's great. Why did you choose Joshua in particular for this 100th anniversary concert?
Well, Joshua and I have been friends for quite a few years now. We've made music together quite a few times, and a lot that's I'm not sure that I have the words for it, but we can communicate with each other sometimes even humorously on stage, with just the look about something that he played or something that I did or whatever happens, and music with someone that you love. And so that's why Joshua.
And Joshua, what was it like when you got that phone call?
I was so excited. I have so much admiration and respect for everything that Maestro Wilkins has done with the orchestra. And it's really exciting when that does merge with friendship and you have that warmth that allows you to be at ease and to communicate in a way that is not always possible. As Maestro Wilkins talked about, there are many moments that we share on and off stage, and the ones on stage, they're extra special. And I also feel that every time I come back, I discover something new about the orchestra, about the city, and about Maestro Wilkins. And to be able to come have that experience yet again in the last season as music director is very special to me. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh, and we're so glad to have you. And, there may not be as many people in the seats, but I guarantee you that there will be as much enthusiasm as ever. That's terrific. Well, Maestro Wilkins, you have two French composers, you have two English composers on the program. Let's talk first about the specific pieces that you're playing. Tell the audience what they are, and then we'll go back and consider each one of them a little bit, if you will. What's on the program this weekend?
Well, let's see. I believe we opened with the Malcolm Arnold Four Scottish Dances, and Malcolm Arnold has always been a favorite of mine. We have the Ravel Mother Goose Suite, and then we have a set of dances that Samuel Coleridge Taylor compiled from his cantata, triple cantata, really. The dance from his Hiawatha music, and then of course the Saint-Saëns cello concerto with Josh Roman.
And the concert starts out with Malcolm Arnold's Four Scottish Dances, which is really light music. This is kind of a treat, isn't it? Its music was inspired by Scottish dances. Is that correct?
Yeah, inspired by, but not based on, for example. So he essentially takes the flavor of these dances. The Scottish reel is one of them, for example, and he creates his own music with his own voice. And one thing that all four composers share is that they're all great orchestrators, and that was especially the juxtaposition between Malcolm Arnold, who is one of my favorite orchestrators, and Maurice Ravel, who is Ravel, right? So I love that juxtaposition on the program for sure. But yes, that's exactly what Malcolm Arnold does. At one moment you have this beautiful slow melody where he just says, "This is just a summer day in the Hebrides," and it's music that allows you to exhale. And yes, it's light. There's one moment where in the middle of a movement, the music actually becomes a little tipsy and humorous, and yet it's not music to be taken for granted. I guess that's what I mean by the fact that Malcolm Arnold is a serious musician with great orchestration chops, and he just gives us. I think it's just a delightful way to begin the program, quite frankly. And I'm usually thinking about how I want the audience to feel at a certain time. And to come out of the gate with a big smile on your face, I think is a great treat to give to the audience.
Yes, indeed. And, when we think of Scottish music, we think of bagpipes and other Scottish instruments. Is there a way that the instruments in the orchestra kind of mimic these or bring out the Scottish sounds, so to speak?
Yes, he does that by, in fact, I was going to grab the score. He does that by, choosing certain combination of instruments. When the bassoon is a big character in this piece, and so you can certainly listen for that. And even the glissandos that you hear, the sliding sounds that you hear in the music, in the finale, which is just a lively reel. He uses both the rhythm and the color of the woodwinds to give you this true dance sensation, and the rhythm is that so as if feet are just sort of flying in the air, and then in that country moment that I mentioned earlier about this Hebrides music, the two central characters are the very relaxed horizontal melody and the rolling of the harp, and it's sensational.
Now, I know we enjoyed another Malcolm Arnold piece back in February. You had three shanties for wind quintet. Tell us, what draws you back to Arnold's music in terms of putting in your programs?
Yeah, and that, of course, I did not do because that particular piece. But it's just delicious music. I mean, from an intellectual standpoint, I stipulate that he's, as I said earlier, is just a master orchestrator. But he also has a wonderful gift of melody. And this gift of melody is inviting to me personally. And so I'm always sort of drawn to those things. What the, not just harmonic climate that he creates, but just the colors that he manages to wring out of the orchestra by certain combinations of instruments, as I alluded to before, and just the delight of the music. It's not quite dessert, but it surely is full of calories.
Life is uncertain. Eat dessert first, right?
Yeah,
Well, Malcolm
and maybe that's what we're doing on this program.
It sounds like a great idea to me. And I know the audience is going to enjoy it. Now, the other English composer is Samuel Coleridge Taylor. And the music is the suite from the ballet, or Hiawatha, which, of course, he had also a very prolific career. Composed an incredible amount of music in a short time. He died an untimely death way too soon, which was truly tragic. Tell us about his career and the suite from the ballet music.
Yeah, this was all inspired by the cantata, the Wedding Feast of Hiawatha, which is the first of the trilogy, or Hiawatha's Wedding Feast. His father was a doctor from Sierra Leone. His mother was an English woman. He lived during the time of Dvorak, and unfortunately, some people refer to him as the Black Dvorak, which is unfair to him and his own abilities as a composer. He was well loved by Dvorak. That is a certainty. Went to the Royal College of Music, just like Malcolm Arnold, by the way. And as you're right, he composed about 82, 87 pieces. He died when he was 37 years old. He died broke. He never got to see any of the financial gains from all of the works that would be played after he was gone. But he too had he had a gift for melody and harmony, for sure. And he wrote as an Englishman, but then this is interesting because, like Dvorak, he was fascinated by the American Negro spiritual. The Fisk Jubilee singers, he just absolutely loved. Dvorak loved Harry T. Burleigh, the black baritone who would sing spirituals for Dvorak when he was in America. Coleridge Taylor was, which I find interesting, as an English composer trained in the Royal College of Music, but just fascinated by American music and the music that Black Americans were writing and the whole Native American life that was happening. Going to be redundant, Native American life in America, but all of that was a fascination to him, and that's what drew him to this work, poetic work of Longfellow, and as much as writing this African soil into his English music, which is one of the things that makes this piece so extraordinary. He was fascinated by the notion of Pan-Africanism, the plight of dark-skinned people all across the globe, not just America. That I think it's safe to say that was one of his callings in life, was to bring out the reality of the life of folks who sort of really looked like him but didn't live where he lived.
And what should audiences be listening for in the ballet suite from Hiawatha?
I think, there's 5 dances or 5 sections. I think there is nature in this. There's one movement where there's the singing of birds that happens in the flutes in the part A of the third movement. The third movement is actually in 2 parts. The second is a conjurer's dance. It has all of the rustic flavor of, Longfellow was fascinated by this idea of the noble savage. And so all of that sort of flavor, for lack of a better term, finds its way into this music as well. Big drama in the next to last movie, in the departure. There's love music in this ballet suite, and there are many moments that it sounds like it's Native American music.
Mm.
And so you can
Definitely
sort of,
something to listen for.
yeah, you shouldn't be surprised even by its title, of course, but and its subject matter of the title, that he manages to capture even that Native American flavor as well in this music, all the while clearly revealing his superb classical training as a composer in that tradition. So it's just, this is what all of the many of the great, I don't want to be hyperbolic, but many great composers managed to put their own voice of their native land into their music. We used to apologize for writing American music because it sounded like America. Well, Mahler didn't apologize for putting klezmer sounds in his music, and people like didn't apologize for putting a Czech flavor in their music. So it's almost kind of a gift that he's writing American, quote unquote, American music as a European composer, much like Dvorak did with his Ninth Symphony. Dvorak said, "I couldn't have written that symphony had I not been in America." So I guess Coleridge Taylor couldn't have written this music had he not been so fascinated by both musical life and sociological life in the America that he was experiencing. And that endeavor of his would demonstrate to us. He was also fascinated by other pioneers like Duke Ellington, for example. Even though there's nothing jazzy about this music, it's interesting how it speaks to all of those other things in America that was experimental with American music.
Well, this should be a very exciting start to this program. And then coming up next, of course, is Camille Saint-Saëns, the Cello Concerto No. 1. And that's where Joshua Roman comes in. Exciting to have you coming to play this. Camille Saint-Saëns started at age 3 composing and finished up at age 86. Put out 300 plus works, incredible amount of music. And yet, Joshua, he's only known for just a few works today. Most of us know him for the Carnival of the Animals. But outside of the cello concerto that you'll talk about here in a minute, what are some other works by Saint-Saëns that people, you think they should know?
Well, there's the big organ symphony is something that every once in a while will hit a hull. And if you're anywhere within spitting distance, driving distance, is doing the organ symphony, it's worth going to see. That one's absolutely fantastic. And I actually really love a lot of the smaller works, a lot of the show pieces that he wrote. He wrote, how many violin concertos, Maestro Wilkins? It was at least 3, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe just 3. He wrote several violin concertos, and those are nice. But a lot of what he did that I've kind of fallen in love with are the very short pieces. And there's a great album of the collected cello works with Stephen Isserlis that has many of those. There's a beautiful sonata, really awesome sonata. In fact, I think there is another sonata as well, but the first one is really powerful. And short pieces like The Swan, which is from the Carnival of the Animals, and Allegro Appassionato, which is a standalone piece, have so much character. And it's really, I think it's remarkable how much he's able to pack into something that doesn't last very long, but leaves you feeling full. And the concerto that I'm bringing this weekend is a great example of that. When I think of a concerto, I usually think 30, 40 minutes. This one's about 20, maybe 21 if we do a lot of slow stuff. And it's but so you cover so much ground. It's a beautiful piece that really explores color. It's very, very tightly written in the way that Beethoven sometimes would write things. And Saint-Saëns was a huge fan of classical form, and in many senses a neoclassicist of his time. Whether that helped his music stick around or not, I don't know. But in the case of this piece, and many of his shorter pieces as well, the combination of a classical form and structure with the intense romantic sort of urges that you hear and the passion and what you're set up to do with sound, it's incredibly dynamic and powerful. I love it.
You know, they say this is one of the great cello concertos, and there are a lot of great ones out there. What makes a cello concerto great, Joshua?
You got to be able to hear the cello.
Good point.
That's it. No, actually, it is weirdly, that is a big part of it. The cello is not an instrument that, even when it's projecting, that cuts through because of where the range is. It's an instrument that connects incredibly well. When you hear the sound of a cello and you hear where the tension is building and where it breaks in the cello, it's very similar to what we're accustomed to hearing, where the sound, where our voices start to build in tension and where our voices break. So there's something very connective about that sound and the way that energy comes through. But in reality, when you've got 40 to 80 players on stage, that same range is not going to cut through all of the wall of sound that an orchestra has. So it takes a really skillful orchestrator to write a cello concerto so that the cello can be heard, first of all. So it's really, as much as it's a joke, it's really based in truth. And Saint-Saëns does a good job. He does it without, I think, especially for such a short piece, I think he does it without sacrificing the orchestra's involvement. There are moments where the orchestra takes over and does its own thing, and it's not just, it is related to the classical style in the way that it does that, but it's not just a back and forth. There's true engagement in a real, almost operatic sense, that the orchestra contains characters and sometimes is one character that the cello works with or against or plays off of. It's much more dynamic in that relationship, and that allows the cello, as if you want to think of it as the protagonist, to then actually have a journey that is much more colorful than if I'm just the soloist and there's a group that's just there to do, be in the shadows. That's not the case with this piece, and I think it gives the cello room to shine in more of its range, its emotional and sonic range.
Now, you mentioned, this being a shorter piece. Now, he kind of broke tradition, didn't he, with the 3-movement concerto when he composed this? Is there a different approach that you take in performing this work because of that?
Well, he did break it in some ways, in that there's no pause in between the movements, and because it's so short, it could feel like a concert piece. And I do take account of that, and in terms of energy preparation. I mean, you have to really, and the way that it starts too with the orchestra, boom, like right away, you have to be engaged you don't get to walk out and warm up like with the Dvorak. You're on, and you go, and you have to pack everything, take advantage of every moment that you have, and still see the big picture, because the big picture is small enough that you actually have a chance of having more people experience it. So the thing that he does by tying the movements together, both in the sense that you don't stop playing, and also in the sense that certain themes and motifs return and are used as connective material, those things definitely affect me. But mostly I would say that it's just, don't hold back from the very beginning. There's no time to waste. It's all out there.
And now, when the audience is listening, anything special they should listen for? And are there any surprises in this piece that they should listen for?
Well, I'm not going to give away any of the surprises. There are things to listen for in terms of, I think, following the emotional arc of the piece. And that is that some of the main themes come back, and they come back at moments that have meaning. For example, essentially in the transition to what is the second movement to what is the third movement, you hear one of the themes from the first movement again. And it takes you to a totally different place than you were the first time. So that's not the only time that happens. Just sort of listening to the things that are presented. And I think he does a very good job of setting them up. He sets you up with plenty of time, like the curtains or the scene is changing, and then you have a theme. Or like again, right when you walk out, boom, there's the thing. If you hear that enough, that when enough time has passed, other things come in between, and then you hear it again. Why is it different? How is it different? What's feeling different about this thing that's very recognizable and yet not in the place where we were introduced to it? And I think just noticing those things goes a long way towards giving us each our own experience that is really connected to the sound that's unfolding in front of us.
No, I love the cello. One of my great regrets in life, Joshua, was not having taken up the cello. So,
well, you can do it. Now's a good time.
Someone told me I could, probably between 2 and 4 in the morning in my spare time. But honest to goodness, I would love it. Thanks so much. And we're so glad to have you. What's special about playing with the Omaha Symphony? Let me ask you that.
Well, so many things. I think from the very first moment that I was in Omaha, I felt a strong connection, maybe partially because I'm from Oklahoma, and Oklahoma and Nebraska have a lot of similarities. And it was really great to be somewhere that had all these familiar feelings. I have friends that have played in the orchestra, meeting Maestro Wilkins and developing our camaraderie and our friendship and musical friendship together. There's something when you're traveling all the time, and I'm laughing because that's not happening now. Yes. But in the you're all over the place, able to return and to develop something with other people, and to come back and feel welcome and like there's room to experiment. Some of the concerto that he'd written for me, and then turn around and do the Dvorak concerto the very next week because of a cancellation. Those are very special moments. Very special moments. Like, I don't know other places. That's Omaha, and I've gotten to know people inside and outside of the orchestra through that, and being excited to go and knowing that there's something there already, and it's my job now to bring something new to that and to build on that. And I love that aspect of my job, and Omaha is a place where I feel very strongly that connection.
Oh, and I'm sure that we feel that same way, and people are really looking forward to this. Back to Maestro Thomas, last but not least in the program, the last great French composer, Maurice Ravel, La Mère Loire, or if you prefer, The Mother Goose Suite, most of us do. I hear he was fond of children and animals. How did this suite originate?
Let me just jump on something that Joshua said before I go to that, because I had forgotten about that snow day where we lost an artist. And I think I called you and said, "Are you willing to stay?" And you emailed me or something the next morning and said, "Was that a joke?" Or
yeah, because we had been joking. This blizzard had started to shut things down. My flight was actually my flight to leave after the Kernis was being delayed, and it maybe had been canceled. And backstage at our concert of the Kernis at the museum, we were already joking. Well, if it stops, what would we do? I mean, we could do Dvorak. And then when you called me, I was like, haha, nice one. Yeah, it was a fun joke, but no, that's right.
Right.
But it happened.
Well, yes, thanks for that memory. I had forgotten about that. And I think we shot a scene, right? Did we film something?
Oh, yes, we did something. I was like getting in the car and you ran out and you were like, wait.
You can't go. Yes.
I forgot about that.
Yes, indeed.
That's probably still online where everything was.
There are no blizzards in the forecast this week.
Oh, yes. Oh, are there really?
No. I
don't good.
I don't think there are.
Because we really want people to hear this program. And to your earlier question, yes, indeed, the Ravel. I think Ravel, for me, there's a handful of composers who really were for me, the top orchestrators. I think of Respighi. I opposite of Debussy. Ravel was moving more towards, he was sticking with form. You know, we used to say that if you're going to take something out, you have to be sure that you fill that void with something else. So, you know, Dvorak took out, Debussy took out rhythmic structure, for lack of a better way to put it, but he inserted massive color. Ravel went the exact opposite direction. He left structure in place, and he still adds incredible color. This suite that you're going to hear was actually a piano four-hand piece that he wrote for two children of friends of his, that so they could play these things together. And it was actually his publisher who saw beyond that and said, wait a minute, there's something here. And he convinced him to, in fact, orchestrate it. And then, if I remember correctly, it was another colleague who wanted him to actually create this suite so he could actually choreograph an actual ballet. But it begins its life innocently enough, but it ends up being certainly one of his most well-loved and oft-performed pieces.
Very true. Yes. Yes. And there are 5 movements. I know I have my favorite. The Fairy Garden is my favorite. Do you have a favorite movement?
That's it. The Enchanted Garden. That is totally it. I mean, the moment I did it on a young people's concert in Boston a couple of years back, and I set it up by saying that there's all of this mystery in the beginning, and you know, he walks into the room and he sees Sleeping Beauty there, and he knows there's only one way that, you know, he's going to revive her. And I'm walking up to an elderly teacher while I'm saying it, because she's looking like, you're not going to kiss me, you're not going to kiss me, you know. But we had so much fun with that. But that moment of grandeur at the end is just it's my favorite. Although I will say that every time I'm in each one of those movements, I'm loving it for what it is at the time. In fact, I pulled out the score earlier. Just the way the opening movement begins as an exhalation in the horn and the second flute. It just breathes across 4 bars, and then it's taken up later by the first flute. I love that moment. I love the spinning, Beauty and the Beast, the contrast between the contrabassoon and the other instruments in the orchestra. It's that's stunning. The way he manages to get an Asian flavor out of the La Donnette movement, the third movement of the piece, just by his brilliant use of the piccolo as a major melodic force in that movement, is certainly something to listen for. I love I'm staring at the movements as I talk to you right now, and I keep flipping the page and going, yeah, that's a nice moment too. I mean, it's just.
Well, we have 5 wonderful ones. They all, they kind of take you on a trip into childhood, don't they?
Yeah, they kind of do.
Based on French fairy tales, I guess.
The actual Mother Goose, yes.
Yeah, and of course, you know, those fairy tales had become treasures of all different countries, including our own. If you're in the audience right now, if you have a question for Joshua Roman or Maestro Thomas Wilkins, please feel free to, I guess you can chat it, and we'll pass it on and ask them. Let me just say this, Thomas, this is one of your final 3 concerts at the Omaha Symphony, and I feel sad even saying that. We will miss you so much. But let's talk for a moment beyond this weekend, a little bit about the last 2 concerts that are coming up. I understand you have an engagement with Pink Martini. Is that correct?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're quite popular, and they always, we'll see what COVID restrictions does into the circumstances, but they usually turn a concert into a party, which is I have
We could do a party these days.
yeah, right. I first encountered them at the Hollywood Bowl, and while on stage, I realized I was having some of the most fun I have ever had in my life on stage. Their talent notwithstanding, the fact that they perform music in 5, 6 different languages, and so there's all these different flavors that happen, and the ethnic flavors that happen over the course of a single concert. Thomas is an extraordinary musician and pianist, Thomas Lauderdale. And we've again, like Joshua, we've known each other as friends for so many years. In fact, just a couple of days ago, I got a text from him, and this is typical Lauderdale. It says, "Thomas Wilkins, let's talk about program. Thomas Lauderdale." That was the end of the text. Okay, so having these guys, again, they were on my wish list of people that I wanted to end my tenure with. At the Omaha Symphony, and sure enough, they're there. And then at the end, it was going to, Joshua and I were joking that the word of the day in this COVID land that we're living is fluid. You can plan, and all of a sudden COVID says, nah, that's not going to happen. And so we went from planning on doing Mahler's 8th Symphony, which is his ginormous work, to Mahler's 1st Symphony, which I thought, well, that's kind of poetic. It's the first Mahler symphony that I did with the Omaha Symphony as music director. So maybe it's neat that it's the last piece that I do with him as music director. And then COVID says, nope, that's not going to work. And so we ended up going to Elgar Enigma Variations, which I chose. Yeah, I mean, I chose it. It even that has its own sort of poetic nature about it, because it was a piece that he wrote dedicated to all of his friends. And because that was the gist of my season with our guest artist, I thought, okay, that's a great way to end. And it's the soloist on that program is one of my closest friends in the music business, is Branford Marcellus. And a couple of my colleagues who are from other orchestras, from the Philadelphia Orchestra, who's now on faculty at IU with me, he's coming to play that concert because it's my last concert. Originally, he was going to play that concert anyway because another of my vocal colleagues from IU was one of the soloists for the Mahler 8. I mean, so we had it all planned out. So it still ends up being a pretty special way to end my tenure.
Oh, it's going to be wonderful. So that's the blockbuster finale coming up. Folks, if you're listening, go to omahasymphony.org, take a look at these final 2 concerts. And while you're there, buy tickets for the one that's coming up this weekend. We can't wait to see this concert this weekend. It's Joshua, it's wonderful to have you here for the 100th anniversary, to be working with your good friend. He's been such a good friend to this community as well. And we're just delighted to have you both back, and delighted to have you as our guests this evening. I'm so looking forward to the weekend. I want to be there for all the surprises that you've been hiding.
Yeah, me too. In fact, there was one moment where we opened the concert with a particular piece of music. I don't remember what. And then Joshua, in his cadenza, played snippets from the first piece of music that we played on the program.
That's right.
And he looked at me with this fish eye, and I went, yeah, I caught it.
We're expecting big things this weekend, okay?
You're going to have to look at the fish eyes, because there won't be much behind the masks. It's all going to be in the eyes and in the sound.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
Yes.
Thank you both so much for your time this evening. And we are so looking forward to this weekend. Folks, remember, if they take the stage March 26th, March 27th, going to be one of his last performances here as music director of the Omaha Symphony. Dynamic Joshua Roman here to make the program exceptionally special. So, it's the 100th anniversary. What other reason do you need to come? So right now, I want you to go to omahasymphony.org and get those tickets quickly, because you're not going to want to miss this one. And we can hardly wait to see you there. I've been to several concerts this year. It's safe, it's well done, and it's going to be delightful. 7:30. Friday night, Saturday night, at the Holland Performing Arts Center, the great music of Malcolm Arnold, Samuel Coleridge Taylor, Camille Saint-Saëns, and Maurice Ravel. I'm Colleen Cook. Thanks so much for joining us for the pre-concert conversation. I'm host of the Classical Commute from 4 to 6 on KVNO, where we play all the great music we've talked about tonight and then some. Hey, thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.